एकमक्षरम् हृदि निरन्तरम् भासते स्वयम् लिप्यते कथम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मच्छता पवनचलनरोधा आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्यम् देहं मृण्मयवत् जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतो नाहं तत्तथ भावशुद्धिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भावतः ओहं भावयुतः कुतो वरदिया दृष्टात्मनिष्ठात्मना सोहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम् सोहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयम्. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsangh from Ramanacentre Center for Learning. As usual, we'll be reading from the work Guruvachaka Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal. We'll be reading two verses selected for us. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that will be followed by a practice session of Atmavacharam of 10 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and Atmavacharam practice are completed, there will be summing up remarks by our President, Dr. Sharadaka, and that will be followed by Sri Ramanastotram chanting and floral offering. The floral offering will be by Manjunath ji from the South Bangalore Center here, and the chanting will be by Ujjwal ji. We have two more guests. You can put something like cushion or something. We begin this evening satsang by taking up the first verse selected for us, verse number 874. We find this verse in the segment Meditation on the Truth. That segment is preceded by investigation into truth and followed by experience of the truth. This verse 874 we find in the last subsegment of Meditation on the Truth. This subsegment is called samsara. So the verse 874 is like this. When seen with the eye of one's own Swarupa, which is the transcendental firmament. When seen with the eye of one's own Swarupa, which is the transcendental firmament, the illusion of birth is merely the folly of the ego, which is living coalesced with a body that appears in this false world, which is just an imaginary appearance. When seen with the eye of one's own Swarupa, which is the transcendental firmament, the illusion of birth is merely the folly of the ego, which is living coalesced with a body that appears in this false world, which is just an imaginary appearance. So the samsara itself is relegated to a position of imaginary appearance by the verse when seen with the eye of one's own Swarupa, which is the transcendental firmament. The Swarupa is called as the transcendental firmament. Firmament means akasha or the space. Usually poets refer to the firmament in which the stars are all twinkling. So the firmament is the akasha. Here the transcendental firmament is the chidakasha, which transcends the waking, the dream and the deep sleep states. That is the eye of one's Swarupa, says Muruganar Swamigal. That what is the eye with which we should see? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder is a very simple statement. But drishtim jnanamayam kritva pashyet brahmamayam jagat is a far deeper indication that what is seen is dependent on the subtlety of the seer, the perception of the seer. It is told that by Bhagavan in one of the talks that both Duryodhana and Yudhishthir were sent out one day to see their kingdom and to come back and report the nature of the people that they could address, meet, talk with, relate to. They came back in the evening and report to the Guru, and Duryodhana reports, this whole kingdom is full of cruel people. I couldn't see one person who is good, who is following the God. Everyone is having fault after fault after fault. And Yudhishthir is asked to give his report, and Yudhishthir says, O Guru, I find that each of our citizens is so good, struggling to do good in life. And the beauty is that at least in one area, they were better than me. None of them were worse than me in all the areas. At least in one area, each one of them were better than me, says Yudhishthira. And that is the nature of perception one should have. And about Ramana, when Ganapati Muni writes about Bhagavan, about the nature of perception of Bhagavan, Ganapati Muni says that Bhagavan could perceive the goodness of his disciples. Chaturena chalendriya nigrahane patuna parakiya guna grahane. Ramana's perception was that though he could see everything, he could also see what the disciple could not see. That is the goodness in him. And that is what Bhagavan would highlight and bring out by his nature itself. And Grant Duff says that though Bhagavan could see the finest of the errors that we have, he would not bring them out lest we get embarrassed. But he would only bring the mauna in us by going to his own mauna. He will bring out the mauna in us, the swarupa sthiti in us, by going to his own mauna. That is the way in which he got to his own goal and brought us to our goal. He was gentle beyond gentleness, says Grant Duff. That is because he could see only the Parabrahman in everything, in everybody. When a child comes and asks Bhagavan, why don't you come to an all India tour? You can come to our home, you can go all over the country. People are all waiting to have a darshan of you. You can also see many places. Then Bhagavan says, what to do, child? I cannot see anything but one. So I have lost the ability to see many different things. So I see only one, and there is no point in me coming from place to place, he says, all indicating that when one is having the Swarupa Drishti, that one's own eye is not this mortal eye, is not this physical eye. There is an interaction between Rahula, the son of Buddha, and Buddha. Somehow Rahula has got into this habit of telling lies, and his perception is polluted by that habit. And Buddha, in an interaction, he brings Rahula there and he says, he has a bowl of clean water, says, wash your face with that. And Rahula washes, and then Buddha places his feet in that bowl and says, please clean the feet, and the water is used to clean the feet. And after that, Buddha says, now is that water capable of cleaning your face? Rahula says, no, it's not possible to clean my face with that because it is already dirty. It is the same with your mind. If you tell lies and fall into the habit of telling lies, you will never be able to face the truth of the Supreme. You will never be able to receive enlightenment because your perception is polluted, is corrupted, is lopsided. That is why drishtim jnanamayim kritva pashyed brahmamayam jagat. And in self-inquiry, what Bhagavan does, directly the malcontent in the ego, the perceiver, is removed. Each time a thought is let go and attention is put on the eye, some of the attachment to the body and the malcontent or ignorance goes, and the jiva moves a little bit towards the purity of the self. Each time we do self-inquiry. To Kapali Shastri, Bhagavan says that, therefore the first sentence is, when seen with the eye of one's own Swarupa, which is the transcendental firmament, the illusion of birth is merely a folly of the ego. Now, one sees only the unborn self in everyone. And it is done effortlessly because one is identified with the formless unborn self. There is no effort required to see the limitations of the other. Everyone is this only. Therefore, two perceptions are not required. In a single perception, one's own truth and the truth of every being is seen. And since the truth is perceived in that spiritual firmament, that pure eye of Swarupa, one clearly understands this whole creation, this whole birth and death play is nothing but the folly of the rising ego. To see someone, if I identify with the body, if I coalesce my spirit with this body, then I reduce Manjunathji also to another body. Whereas to see the truth of Manjunathji, all I have to do is to have the right perception of who I am. In that singular event, one sees the truth of everyone. And one naturally sees that this samsara is nothing but me rising as an ego, identifying with the thought or identifying with this body, therefore reducing all others to a physical form or to a subtle thought form. And that is how the whole samsara arises. So that is what is there in the second sentence. The illusion of birth is merely the folly of the ego, which is living coalesced with the body that appears in this false world, which is just an imaginary appearance. In that Purna Satta, this object, the objective existence of the world is seen as a non-appearance, as a non-event, as a mere appearance which arises when the ego arises. In the talks, while reading the talks this morning, Venkateshji was covering three types of illusion that Bhagavan was saying. The jnani is the master of all the three types of illusion. He understands all the three types of illusion completely. First type of illusion is the root in Advaita, which says that if you see the snake, you don't see the rope, and if you see the rope, you don't see the snake. That means if you see the pure self, you don't see the forms, you don't see the world at all. But then the people who are observing Bhagavan, who says that he is residing in the Advaitic truth, they ask, but he is seeing the world just like us. He is also seeing this world, is he not? Then how come that he is being only the formless self? So to appease them, who cannot understand that even when the eyes are opened and forms are seen, he is residing only in the formless self. To appease them, it is said that it is like the illusion of mirage. That though the mirage is seen, it is not understood, it is clearly understood that is a purposeless thing, that it is not going to serve any purpose. Though the world is seen, to the jnani, it is a useless thing because no good purpose can be taken from the world. So it appears like a mirage. So the second illusion is the illusion of mirage. When somebody asks a doubt, how is it Bhagavan is looking at this world just like you and me? How can you say he is seeing only the rope? He is seeing the snake also. So the jnani is very clear that even when the world is appearing, it is merely like a mirage. Then Bhagavan says, they will still ask that in mirage the water doesn't quench. But in the world, Bhagavan is seen to have food. He is seen to give upadesha. Why should he give upadesha if bondage is not real? Then Bhagavan says, the third illusion also the jnani is master of. That it is like the dream creation, dream thirst needing dream water, and dream food, dream hunger needing dream food. That this upadesha and the food for the body are taken. Though they serve a temporary transitory purpose, they don't serve any real purpose. Therefore, the third illusion of the illusion of dream is also mastered by the jnani. He understands all the three, though all the time residing only in the rope. For the sake of giving upadesham, he knows the illusion completely of the mirage. And if somebody asks, in mirage water is purposeless, but we see Bhagavan speaking, eating food, then he is the master of dream also, because in this dream illusion of world, he knows the dream upadesha to remove the dream bondage is required. So, drishtim jnanamayam krutva pashyad brahmamayam jagat. If one sees everything with the Swarupa Drishti, then this whole samsara is nothing but if I allow the ego to rise and identify with the body, the others are also there with form. Otherwise, everything is only the self. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atma Vicharam for 10 minutes, which brings us to the state which Muruganar has so clearly described for us. I'll set the time for us today. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramana. Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse. Verse number 975. This appears in the third segment of the book, the Anubhava segment, Experience of the Truth. Verse number 975. This appears in the subtitle, Jnana alone is true devotion. Jnana alone is true devotion. The verse goes like this, verse number 975. The defect, the body ego, which itself lacks permanence, is the cause of the entire manifestation that appears as if it is permanent. If the ego dies, in that state, all that remains for one to rest in is the unique being Sat. The defect, the body ego, which itself lacks permanence, is the cause of the entire manifestation that appears as if it is permanent. If the ego dies, in that state, all that remains for one to rest in is the unique being Sat. The beauty of Bhagavan's teachings, how he goes to the root and plucks it out, so that the entire problem of samsara, which appears to be so huge, comes tumbling down in one stroke by going directly to the root called the body ego. Here the verse says, it is very easy to understand that the body ego is impermanent. But when we look at the world, it appears to be so huge, so much science, so much study is going into it. They say it is more than 14 billion years old, the whole universe. Earth is 5 billion years old. And we have all been created in time by the clash of the stars, by the destruction of stars. Atoms come. Those atoms all create higher atoms in higher supernovas. Then the small bacteria which breathes in carbon dioxide and breathes out oxygen for 1.5 billion years on Earth creates the oxygen and the ozone layer. Then the higher mammals come. We are all here in the last 900 million years or so, the higher mammals, only because those small bacteria breathed in carbon dioxide and left out oxygen and changed the atmosphere here. Therefore, we could come. And then in the last 40,000 years or so, our language and other intellect has grown. And that is how the story is told, that all this is there, billions and billions and years of Srishti is there, of which you are a small part. But how Bhagavan twists the whole tale on its head is that this is called as Krama Srishti. When we see the whole world as so huge, such great people are there, so many people are there, much bigger than us, more learned, more powerful. How are we to go? How are we going to stay afloat in this world? This is the normal problem that a jiva faces. But the jnani that Bhagavan is, he brings us to the point that there is no world if your consciousness does not attach itself to the ego and body. If your consciousness is submerged in the source, then the whole 4 billion, 5 billion years of Earth, 14 billion years of world, and the many Shastras which says that the yugas have been going in many cycles. We have had many cycles of yugas. The Srishti has been going on for billions and billions of years. They say, Bhagavan says, it will look very permanent. If you look at that, the samsara will look so huge and permanent. But if you logically see that if you are not attached to the ego body complex, then the whole structure of samsara comes tumbling down. That is not there. Therefore, when one lets go of the ego, one can rest in the Sat, says Bhagavan. There is this beautiful story of the boat of a Greek legend. I think it is Atheist or some Greek legendary person. He is supposed to have taken that boat and gone to an island where a huge monster was threatening to overtake the land and the people here. He slays that monster and he comes back victorious. And that particular journey is reenacted by the people of Greece for over 1,000 years. The same boat they will take on that particular day, go up to that island, celebrate, and Theseus, his name is Theseus. It is called as boat of Theseus. And it is connected with the ego body. That's why I am taking that. So the question goes like this, that the boat has been planted in that harbor of Athens perhaps for over 1,000 years, that each of the plank with which the boat is made has become rotten over the years, and every little plank has been replaced. Every little plank in that boat has been replaced. Now the question is it the same boat of Theseus that is being taken now? Now all the planks in that boat have been completely replaced, because with time all those things brought together have become rotten and they had to be thrown. This is how the ego is studied, and the modern philosophers, they understand that they cannot say what the ego is, because they analyze like this. How can it can be said that it is the boat of Theseus, or it can also be said it cannot be, because all the components are different. We can also say that if somebody takes and assembles all those parts in some other place, that assembled one, will that be the true boat of Theseus, or will this be the true boat of Theseus? But in Hinduism, we have this much simpler logic of ego, that the ego can identify with a small vigraha of Ganesha made out of turmeric and say that that is the whole cosmos. That Ganesha is the whole cosmos. How many billion years let it be this side, that side? Let it be so many light years of space this side and that side. It is all in that Ganesha. So the boat of Theseus problem is solved in devotion in a very simple way. That it is the bhavana, the bhakti, which says that that is not merely the vigraha there made out of turmeric. It is the entire cosmos, the body of Ishvara that is being worshipped, including this body. That means the ego of the devotee in his surrender has now identified with that spirit which occupies everything. And Bhagavan says that is all that is there, that the ego which is now attached to the component parts of the body or some thoughts and says this is Nandakumar, can also expand and identify with the whole creation, known and unknown, and say that I am that. Pindam mevi anadane, Brahmandam mevi anadane. The same spirit that is permeating this body and thoughts is the same spirit that is permeating the whole creation. But Bhagavan says the way to rest in the self is let go of the identity of the body and the thoughts. Then immediately one rests in the self. Isha jivayor veshadhibida satsvabhavato vastu kevalam. If one lets go of the identity with the component parts of the body and component parts of thoughts and lets it go, that cannot be me. By identifying with that, I am saying this Nandakumar is me. But that need not necessarily be me. I can take it and identify with something else. This is called as the freedom of spirit. Once it understands the bondage created out of identity, the spirit becomes free, and once it is free from the upadhis, தன்னை உபாதி விட்டு ஓர்வதுதான் ஈசன் தன்னை உணர்வதான் புந்தி பெற. To let go of the attachment to the component parts. The assembled parts will always get disassembled. The body parts can become gangrenous or this or that and will become merged in their elements of earth or fire. But that's not me. I am just merely assembling all that and saying this is me. And I am assembling some experiences as thoughts. So this is my daughter, this is my wife, these are my children. These are the book learnings I have. I have to go and argue with the other people like this. All those thoughts are assembled by me. And the moment I let them go, I am the pure Sat. All the book learning, all the attachments to the family, when one sees that by identifying I am getting bound, then by letting go of that upadhi, one rests in the self, says Bhagavan. That is the highest devotion. The jnanam and devotion become same there. Because when we see the Nataraja with that beautiful structure of dancing pose with the light of fire all around, he is the Brahmandam. He is the dance of the cosmic play. But is that the Nataraja really? Nataraja is the spirit inside, is the existence consciousness inside, which does not need a support of a body or a form, small or big. The small or big are relative. Whether 5 billion years or 40 years, it is still relative. 5 billion years, 14 billion years is nothing compared to Sat. It is the same as 5 years. It may be 5 billion years, but before the infinite, before the Parabrahman, it becomes nothing. Therefore, Bhagavan says, when one lets go of the identity with the ego and mind, the whole structure of the samsara comes dropping down, and what remains is only the pure Sat. Sat is the Adhara for Isha and Jiva. Whether one has the whole cosmos as one's body, the whole omniscience as one's knowledge, or whether one has a little bit of knowledge and a small body, doesn't matter. Let go of the combinations of the physical parts and thought parts. What remains is the limitless self, the Sadvastu. That's what Bhagavan says. Start letting go of thought. When thought arises, that is what binds you to the physical form as well as the subtle form. As soon as a thought arises, do not follow it, but ask, for whom is this thought? The answer will come, this thought is for me. Enquire, who am I? One thought is destructured, is freed. The consciousness frees itself of one thought. Keep repeating this, says Bhagavan. Go back to the Swarupa till the attachment to the physical body and the thought forms is completely freed off, and one rests in the Sat Swarupam, the eternal self, which is limitless and which does not have big or small proportions. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in this practice of Atma-Vicharam, which frees us of the body-ego identity and simultaneously destructures the whole samsara, which falsely appears to be permanent. I'll set the time for 10 minutes. Let us sit in the practice of Atma-Vicharam. नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय। Namo Ramana. I request our President, Dr. Sharadaka, to give us the summing of remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining is the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on his teachings as recorded by Muruganar Swami in Guru Vachaka Kovai to highlight the essence of self-inquiry which is permeating all of Bhagavan's teachings, and to practice by that very grace the self-inquiry. Today, Bhagavan has told us about the perspective, the vision which we have, the perspective that we have, and how it actually impacts everything that we see. What we see is not actually out there. It is based on our perspective. Nandakumar gave us some beautiful stories from Upakathas from Mahabharata, the story of Buddha and Rahula. So many stories he gave us to understand how the perspective is very important. I recall one instance of Adi Annamalai Shastrigal. He was referred to by the devotees as Shastri Mama, and a great devotee of Bhagavan, ever abiding in the self. In his last date, he had a fall and he had gangrene in his foot that was moving up to his leg. But the doctor said that he was too old to be operated upon. So there was no operation that was performed, and the leg was literally rotting because of the gangrene. Of course, the pain must have been also extremely intense, but he would not express any pain. V. Ganeshan, he went to him and seeing his condition, he had tears in his eyes and he said, Mama, I am not able to see your pain. Sometimes it is our perspective, right? And he said, I am not able to see your pain. And the conversation was in Tamil. And V. Ganeshan said, Unga kaala ennala paakave mudiyala. I'm not able to see your leg in this condition. And Shastriyar, he replied, he said, Kaala yen paakara, mukkal nanna irukke. He made a pun on the word kal. In Tamil, the word kal means leg. It also means quarter. So he said, why do you see the quarter? Why don't you see the 3/4, which is good? Why are you seeing the 1/4 part, which you are finding difficult to see? Why don't you see the 3/4 part? So there is a perspective, the way we see. What are we seeing? Are we seeing, very often it is said, the half empty cup or the half full cup? Whether we see that which is full or that which is half. There is this perspective. I also like one, a little instance which is a riddle kind of, which is quoted. It says, okay, there is a cloud which has a silver lining, and the pessimist sees the silver lining, the pessimist sees the dark part of the cloud, and the philosopher says, oh, there is a dark part in the cloud and there is a silver lining. So what does the optimist see? So normally we would say the optimist sees only the silver lining. But the answer comes, no, the optimist doesn't even see the silver lining because the optimist is walking on the cloud. So what is the perspective? And what is Bhagavan's perspective? It is jnana, the perspective of jnana. When one of the devotees, Mercedes Acosta, she asked him, you say that all of us are one? So you mean to say that you, me and my servant, all of us are one actually? And Bhagavan said, yes, you, your servant, I, and those monkeys which you can see outside the window, they are all one in one consciousness. And she said, even the monkeys? Bhagavan said, in one consciousness, all are one. So Bhagavan asks us to get back to that drishti, that vision, which alone is a true vision. Unless we have that vision, everything is only warped. My world is different from everyone else's world because it is from my perspective. Even in a physical sense, if two people are sitting in the room facing each other, do they see the same things? They don't see the same things. Each one sees the other. So it's also said that, see, in the same house, say a couple and their two children are living along with their parents, the couple's parents. So what happens for the man? He has a wife and he of course has children and he has his parents. For the woman, she doesn't have a wife. She has a husband and she has children and she has husband's parents, not her parents. So each one has a different perspective to the world. A different world itself is seen. It is not the same world at all, though we think it is the same world. So what is it that can unite? What is it that is a true vision? Bhagavan says, if we get back to the self, only that is true vision. And that is true bhakti also, because without the jnana drishti, if we look at the world, then we see it as divided. We see it as having variations, multiplicity. So, Muruganar Swami in Tiruvambavai, in this month of Margadi, the Tiruvambavai it's very sacred to sing the composition of Tiruvambavai. In the very first Tiruvambavai, he says, Pen on aligalenum bedathai neethu, destroying all the differences of uh, gender, man, woman, and the hermaphrodite, all the three, the transgender. So nothing is there. All these are destroyed, destroying all these differences. Let us bathe in the waters of love for Bhagavan. Because when we see differences, we are actually unable to have the vision of love for all. And how can we not see differences so long as the ego is manifesting and we are imagining that we are the body, asks Bhagavan over here. So long as that is happening, it is not possible to be actually experiencing the fullness of love, which is jnana. So Bhagavan says one must abide in this self, which is true bhakti. In Adi Shankara's Viveka Chudamani also he says, Swaswarupa Anusandhanam Bhaktiritya. Swaswarupa Anusandhanam. To be ever practicing the abidance of the self is really called bhakti. bhakti. And in Upadeshasaram, Bhagavan says, Bhava Shunya Sadbhava Sustitihi Bhavana Balat Bhakti Ruttama. The greatest bhakti, the highest bhakti is to be abiding in that source where there are no divisions, where there are no divisions, where there are no differences. And in self-inquiry, Bhagavan allows us to do this by perceiving, by seeing that there are really no differences. Because every experience comes to us in the form of a thought. Every experience comes to us in the form of a thought. The person whom I dislike also I see within me only in the form of a thought. And the person whom I like also I see within me only in the form of a thought. So the person I dislike is also a thought. The person I like is also a thought. When I recognize this, when I see that everything is a thought, what happens? The differences are obliterated within us to begin with in self-inquiry. And then we do not worry about it. When everything is only a thought, when everything, my fear is also a thought, my anger is also a thought, my love is also a thought, neither is great, neither is lowly, neither is good, neither is bad. So my attention can turn away from that to the light, which is the source of all thoughts. And that's why by asking, these thoughts don't matter, who am I? And one gets to the source. One recognizes then that all the thoughts are nothing but the light of the self. What else is there within us? There is only the light of the self. Everything is only the light of the self. Only we are dividing this light into images, like when we see a movie, we see the light as numberless images. That's what we are doing. So self-inquiry allows us to recognize this truth of everything. The drishtim jnanamayim, it makes it by making us first understand that everything is only a thought, and then it makes us recognize that all these thoughts are nothing but the self. So it takes us back every time we ask, who am I? It takes us back to the source. And that source is the fullness of love, because love means absence of differences. So jnana alone can be true love. Jnana alone can be true bhakti. And that love Bhagavan gives us by his grace, by taking us within and revealing to us, lovingly revealing to us the source, the self, every time we dip in through self-inquiry, and then by the strength of that very grace, making it steady to a point when everything is really the self. There is no everything to be the self. The self alone is. He takes us to that by his immense grace. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri.
Namo Ramnaka.
Namo Ramas.
May I request Ujjwal ji to do the chanting today? Is that possible?
Revathi can also do, sir. She's here.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
She would like to do it, please.
We are ready.
भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनामावली अपार तच्चित्सुफलादिराशेः यस्योर्विमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि। ॐ महासेन महोंशेन जाताय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः। ॐ गुरवे नमः। ॐ अखण्डसंविदाकाराय नमः। ॐ महौजसे नमः। ॐ कारणकाराय नमः। ॐ जगत्प्रदायकाय नमः। नमः। ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः। ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः। ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः। ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः। ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः। ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः। ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः। ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः। ॐ तीव्राय नमः। ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः। ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः। ॐ पितुरादेशतः शोणशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः। ॐ तपोमयाय नमः। ॐ उदासीनाय नमः। ॐ महायोगिने नमः। ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः। ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः। ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः। ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः। ॐ सवित्रे नमः। ॐ स्थिराय नमः। ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः। ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः। ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः। ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः। ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः। ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः। ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः। ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः। ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः। ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः। ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः। ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्यनिभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलहृद्भूतस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ तद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ तद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्नसंशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानामाराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविदायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादघसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ हृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणाद्रीशस्तुतिद्रष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगभिषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थाणोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवशस्तादात्म्यभावं गतः निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनास्येकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संधिये नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावर्ण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शी ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವದೊಂದು ಕಾಡು ನೀನರಿಸಿಗೆ ಅದರಜ ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡು ತಮ್ಮ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೂಡಿಗಾರನೇ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ ನಮೋ ಮಹರ್ಷಿ। बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮೋ ರಮಣ.
ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ಮಂಜು ಅವರೇ. ನಮೋ ರಮಣ ನಂದಕುಮಾರ್ ಸರ್.
ನಮೋ ರಮಣಕ್ಕ.